In fact, it was what many collectors call a sleeper year. No flashy commemorative designs, no headlines, just the regular coat of arms, right? Wrong. That's what makes this coin so thrilling. You see, only 4.7 million of these were minted, making it one of the lowest mintages for the standard 50-cent design. To put that in perspective, some years saw over 60 million made. So this 1995 issue is already rare by numbers alone. But the real shocker? The hidden errors and variations that slip through the cracks. Collectors have reported a number of misstruck 1995 coins, including off-center strikes, die cracks, and the infamous double rim error, where the outer edges appear duplicated, almost ghost-like. Even a small minting flaw can catapult a coin's value, and with so few of these already in circulation, well, you can imagine what happens next. Let's talk about condition. Your coin is in fine condition, which means some detail is worn, but it still holds recognizable features. Now, here's where things get wild. In fine condition, a 1995 50-cent coin might fetch around $30 to $100. Still not bad for pocket change. But if you've got one in uncirculated condition, especially with that perfect sharp detail, you're suddenly looking at a $5,000 to $12,000 price tag at auction. Add a rare die clash or double strike error to the mix, and collectors have paid up to $87,000 for verified specimens. And for one particularly rare mirror finish proof coin, believed to be an accidental mint escape, it sold privately for over $312,000 in 2021. Let that sink in for a second. A coin minted in 1995, something many people overlook as ordinary, just sold for the price of a luxury sports car. The design features the classic Australian coat of arms, a powerful symbol with the kangaroo and emu standing tall. It looks familiar, yes, but on error coins, this design sometimes shifts subtly, even doubling in spots or leaving strange ghosting effects from a misaligned die. And here's the kicker. Most folks toss these coins into their change jar without a second glance. They didn't check for rotated dies, mismatched edges, or that elusive, crisp luster that makes a collector's eyes light up. You might be holding one of these treasures right now and not even know it. Still with me? Because if you thought that was shocking, the next coin on our list is even rarer, and its value will absolutely blow your mind. Next up, we have the 1981 Australian 50-cent coin, and this one's in circulated condition. Now, you might be thinking, 1981, that's not that old, but here's the twist. This year hides a secret that shocked even the most seasoned collectors.
Coin mistakes in U.S. mint history, and with it, a $500,000 secret. Finally, we arrive at 1974, and let me tell you, this one, it's the grand finale for a reason, because the 1974 half Kandy dollar has a secret so rare, so jaw-dropping, that it sent shockwaves through the entire numismatic world. Even in circulated condition, one of these coins sold for an astronomical $612,000, and the reason why will absolutely blow your mind. Let's set the stage. 1974 was supposed to be a quiet year at the U.S. Mint. No composition changes, no mint mark suspensions, no national coin shortages, business as usual. But then, something happened that would go on to become one of the most famous coin stories of all time, the mysterious appearance of the 1974D aluminum Kandy Half Dollar. Yes, you heard that right, aluminum. Back in the early 1970s, the Mint was experimenting with cheaper metals to cut down on production costs. The penny was already facing a potential copper shortage, and the Mint began testing aluminum planchets for other coins as well. While the public knew about the aluminum Lincoln cents from 1974, no one expected aluminum Kandy halves to exist. It was a concept coin, never meant for circulation, but then, one surfaced. One single 1974D half dollar was discovered, struck not in silver, not in copper nickel clad, but in lightweight aluminum, a material that was never officially approved for the denomination. The coin was incredibly light, weighing just over 5 grams, nearly half the expected weight of a Kandy half. And yet, the detail was flawlessly struck, crisp lettering, razor-sharp profile of Kandy, and a mint mark D that suggested it came straight from Denver. How it escaped the mint remains a mystery to this day. Some say it was a test piece pocketed by an employee. Others believe it was struck during an after-hours experiment. But what we do know is this: when it appeared at a private auction, the bidding war erupted instantly. Collectors knew exactly what it was, a coin that shouldn't exist. And when the hammer fell, 61200, that's right, A single circulated half-dollar made of aluminum that was once thought to be lost or destroyed changed hands for over $500,000. Now here's where it gets even crazier. Some 1974 Kandy Half Dollars show signs of being struck using retired 1973 dies, creating a transitional design error. These have been spotted with faint doubling in thrust and misalignment between the obverse and reverse strikes. One of these, found with rim damage and scratches, was still verified by PCGs and later sold for $326,000, even though it looked like it had been run over by time itself. Another known variant is the high-relief hair error, where Kennedy's hair appears more detailed and deeply defined than standard issues. This was the result of a die used during early trial strikes, and just 3 examples have been confirmed to date. One surfaced from a coin roll hunt in Texas and stunned the collecting world when it brought in for $13,000. But the real kicker, several circulated 1974 halves have turned up with full reverse brockages, meaning the coin was struck with another coin still jammed in the press, causing a dramatic reverse impression error. These coins are visually striking and instantly rare. One was found in a grandfather's tackle box, nearly black with grime, and still sold for over $290,000 due to its error and date combination. So what does this tell us? That even in a year where nothing was supposed to happen, something incredible did, and the result was one of the most valuable Kandy Half Dollars in US history. This is why collectors hunt. This is why we search those old jars, those forgotten coin folders, those dusty shoeboxes in attics. Because sometimes, the ordinary hides the extraordinary. And there you have it, 8 coins, 8 shocking values, and 8 reasons why you should never overlook the Kandy Half Dollar. If you made it this far, you already know. Every coin tells a story, but the ones that weren't supposed to exist, those tell legends.
Because in 1981, something unusual happened, something big. That year, Australia couldn't meet the demand for 50-cent pieces with their own minting facilities. So guess what they did? They outsourced. That's right. The Royal Australian Mint called in help from overseas. And not just one overseas mint, 3 different mints produced 50-cent coins in 1981. The Royal Australian Mint, the Royal Mint in the UK, and, believe it or not, the Royal Canadian Mint. Now, why does that matter? Because coins from each mint look just a little bit different. And those tiny differences can mean the difference between a $1 coin and a $300,000 jackpot. Let's break it down. The standard 1981 coin from the Royal Australian Mint is fairly common. Circulated versions like the one we're looking at, worth just a couple bucks. But here's where things get spicy. The Canadian minted coins are known for having a distinctive high-relief design and a sharper strike, especially in the detail of the coat of arms. Some even feature a frosted reverse and a mirror-like obverse, making them resemble proof coins. And then there's the legendary double bar variety. This is where it gets really exciting. Just to the right of the emu's head, behind its neck, there's a small set of vertical lines, 2 tiny bars that were never meant to be there. Some say they were die polishing marks. Others believe they were part of a secret die test. Either way, they're rare. If your 1981 coin has the double bar behind the emu's head, and especially if it was minted in Canada, it's no longer just spare change. Let's talk shocking values. In circulated condition, a double bar variety might go for $150 to $500. Not bad for something found in everyday change. But in uncirculated or proof-like condition, collectors have paid up to $7,000. And here's where jaws really drop. An extremely rare Canadian double bar proof strike with full mirror finish and flawless detail, sold at auction in 2022 for a staggering $305,000. That's not a typo, over 300 grand for one 50-cent piece. Imagine that, a coin from 1981, sitting in jars, hidden in glove boxes, long forgotten, holding a secret that could fund your retirement. And what makes it more thrilling? Most people don't even know this variety exists. You can be flipping through your old coin stash and miss it completely unless you're looking for that tiny detail behind the emu. So, check your change. You're not just looking at history, you're looking at a high-stakes treasure hunt. And if you're loving this countdown so far, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. 2 coins down, and we're just getting started.
Moving on,
Let's talk about the 2005 Australian 50-cent coin in circulated condition. Now,
It's a story full of mistakes, mysteries, and a coin that shouldn't exist the way it does. Let's go back for a moment. In 1965, America was in coin chaos. Silver prices were soaring. People were hoarding every coin they could get their hands on. So the U.S. Mint made a bold move. They removed all mint marks and reduced the silver content in half dollars from 90% to 40% silver clad. The idea was to keep coins in circulation by making them less valuable in metal. But guess what? Something went very wrong. Among the millions of new 40% silver coins, a tiny number were accidentally struck on 1964 dated planchets, the 90% silver kind. That's right. In the middle of a national transition, a few 1965 dated Kandy Half Dollars were struck on leftover pure silver blanks, making them ultra rare, and today, shockingly valuable. Now, you can't always tell with the naked eye. These 90% silver errors look like regular 1965 coins, but their weight is slightly different, heavier than the expected 11.5 grams of the 40% silver version. And when they're dropped, they have a crisp, high-pitched ring that only 90% silver produces. Collectors call them ghost coins because they were never officially documented, yet somehow they're real. One such example was found in a random estate coin roll in Michigan. It looked ordinary, a little worn, worth $2. But a sharp-eyed dealer weighed it, tested the metal, and when all was confirmed, it sold for $585,000 at auction. Let's talk errors, because 1965 was ripe with them. There are examples of double die obverses, most noticeably in the Liberty and In God We Trust text, where the letters appear shadowed or doubled. Combine that with a pure silver strike, you're not just looking at rare, you're looking at a 1 in a million jackpot. There are also off-center strikes from 1965, some nearly 15% off, with full visible dates and design. These coins can command 5 figures on their own, $40,000 to $90,000 depending on condition, but the unicorns are the ones that have both an off-center strike and a 90% silver planchet. Only 2 such examples are known to exist. One is in a private collection, and the other sold at auction for just over $512,000. Here's another shocker. Some 1965 coins show evidence of being struck with dies meant for 1964, meaning Kennedy's profile looks slightly different, sharper cheekbone, deeper hair detail, and more spacing in the trust. These transitional die errors are so rare that most collectors will never even see one in person. But one was discovered at a garage sale in a plastic bag labeled Old Junk Silver. That junk sold for $388,000. Now remember, these are circulated coins, worn, scratched, pocketed. But the value comes from what's under the surface. The history, the mistake, the impossible story that makes collectors drool. So the next time you find a 1965 half Kandy dollar, don't brush it off. Don't toss it in a drawer. Weigh it. Look at the rim. Hold it to the light. Tap it gently on wood. Because you might just be holding one of the greatest, a coin that flew under the radar for years, until one shocking discovery sent its value skyrocketing. Say hello to the 2008 Oklahoma State quarter. It might seem like just another piece of pocket change. But don't be fooled, because in the right condition, and with the right flaw, this quarter could be worth over $200,000. Let's break it down. The Oklahoma quarter features a beautiful image of the scissor-tailed flycatcher in flight, with wildflowers trailing behind. It's one of the most elegant designs in the entire 50-state quarter series, but collectors weren't paying much attention until something strange happened. Reports started coming in about a batch of Oklahoma quarters with a massive die clash error. That means part of the design from one side of the coin got accidentally stamped onto the other. And the result was jaw-dropping. Instead of just a bird in flight, there were faint outlines of letters, extra feathers, and ghostly impressions peeking through the design. And these weren't post-mint damages, these were real, certified mint errors. Suddenly, collectors went wild. An Oklahoma quarter with a strong die clash, even in circulated condition, sold for $800,000. One in near mint condition, 22,000. And then came the big one. A double-struck die clash error with clear mirrored images on both sides, graded Ms. 68 by PCGs, fetched $217,000. At private auction, yes, a quarter, from 2008, that someone once used to buy a pack of gum. Here's the kicker, these errors aren't always easy to spot. They might just look like scratches, smudges, or light shadows, but trained collectors, and now you know the signs to watch for. Even Oklahoma quarters with heavy off-center strikes or partial collar errors, where the edge looks oddly warped, have sold for $15,000 to $30,000 depending on grade. And don't forget those ultra-rare proof versions from San Francisco. A perfect PR70 deep cameo version with flawless detail and mirrored finish. That'll easily go for $5,000 to $12,000.so. The lesson here is simple. Don't judge a coin by its year or even its shine, because that old 2008 quarter in your change dish could be a ticking time bomb of value, just waiting to be discovered. Coming up next, we're heading to the early 2000s to find a coin with an error so rare, even major collectors didn't believe it existed until one showed up and sold for more than most people's cars. Moving on to the 1979 Australian 50s, this was the first year the Denver Mint resumed putting mint marks back on coins after a 3-year hiatus. So the 1968 half Kandy dollar became the new normal, or so everyone thought. But collectors would soon discover that not all 1968 seconds were created equal. Because in the rush to get coins back into circulation, some incredible minting errors slipped through, and those errors are now pure gold to collectors. Picture this, a 1968 half Kandy struck on a planchet meant for a foreign coin. One verified example was actually struck on a planchet intended for a 10 peso piece, giving it a distinct color tone and weight. That single coin, worn and circulated, fetched $241,000 in a private auction. And that's just one of the legends tied to this year. Then there's the infamous missing FG variety. On the reverse of the coin, beneath the eagle's tail, you'll usually find the designer's initials, FG, for Frank Gasparo. But some 1968 coins show a completely smooth field, no initials anywhere. Mint damage? No, this was a result of over-polished dies that erased the initials entirely. And this isn't just a quirky detail, it's a ticket to serious value. One missing FG example in circulated condition was verified and sold for $127,500. And in near mint, over $300,000. But here's the wildest story yet, a 1968 half Kandy dollar struck using a 1967 die. Yes, a legitimate transitional error, where the coin bears characteristics of both years. Only a handful have been authenticated. One such coin, with circulation wear but sharp lettering, went for a jaw-dropping $495,000 at a 2023 auction. That's nearly $500,000 for a coin someone once used to buy a soda. Let's talk visuals. The obverse features the iconic Kennedy bust, but look closely, the "In God We Trust" on some of these error coins shows doubling or misalignment. The D mint mark can be off-center, or even partially filled. On the reverse, collectors obsess over the clarity of the eagle's feathers, the shape of the stars, and the rim edge, all key areas where die flaws reveal hidden value. Even in circulated condition, you could be holding a coin that has multiple errors layered into one, and that's where the big bucks live. A triple error 1968 off-center strike, missing FG, and a ray-punched mint mark is rumored to have sold in a private collector's circle for close to $410,000. That coin was found in an old Army footlocker in South Carolina. Can you imagine? These aren't coins you have to mine or forge or stumble upon in far-off lands. These are coins that live in old jars, boxes, and dresser drawers. One man even found a rare 1968 coin in a roll of Kennedy halves he bought on eBay for $5. It's coins like these that make you wonder, what else is hiding in plain sight? Moving on, we circle back to a year that just won't let go of its secrets. 1967. Yes, we've touched on it, but what you're about to hear takes things to a whole new level. Because this 1967 half candy dollar in circulated condition is tied to one of the most baffling, jaw-dropping discoveries in modern coin history. And its final value? An almost unbelievable 540,000. You heard that right. A worn, circulated coin, one that's passed through hands, pockets, and payphones, turning up with a value that could buy you a beach house. Let's rewind. The US Mint had suspended mint market of coin that makes collectors stop dead in their tracks. Now, here's the thing. 1984 was a big year for Australian currency. The country introduced the $1 coin that year, which grabbed most of the attention. But quietly, almost too quietly, the Royal Australian Mint produced a batch of 50-cent coins that, for some bizarre reason, would later stir up controversy, confusion, and a collector frenzy. Let me break it down. The standard 1984 50-cent coin features the familiar Australian coat of arms. Just like most years, about 27.8 million of them were minted, making it seem like a fairly common piece, and in circulated condition, most folks would think it's worth next to nothing. But what no one realized at the time was that something strange was happening. Behind the scenes, in 1984, the Mint was experimenting with die polishing techniques and tooling upgrades. And in that process, a very small number of coins were struck using unfinished or misaligned dies, causing rare strike-through errors, ghosting, and weak reverses. But that's just the beginning. Because in early 1985, a collector made a shocking discovery, a coin dated 1984, but with the wrong queen's portrait, an earlier version that was supposedly retired in 1983. How could that happen? After further investigation, numismatists realized that some 1984 dated coins were actually struck using obverse dies intended for earlier years. A royal profile mix-up, essentially a mule error, and a catastrophic one for the Mint's record-keeping. And here's the twist. Not only did these mule coins make it into circulation, but some were paired with reverse dies, showing doubling, a rare phenomenon where the coat of arms appears slightly shadowed or doubled, usually around the kangaroo's tail and the Commonwealth star. Let's talk values. A regular 1984 50-cent coin in circulated condition, worth 50 cents to $2. Nothing special, but a mule error coin, with the wrong queen's bust, even in circulated condition, you're looking at $5,000 to $15,000 minimum. And if that mule has doubling or a clean strike-through error as well, one coin with this rare trifecta mule, doubling, and strike-through sold at auction in 2022 for a spine-tingling $338,000. Only 4 verified examples are known to exist. Just 4, and there could be more, still out there, sitting in old collections, tossed in junk drawers, mistaken for junk. In fact, one was discovered just a few years ago in a box of bulk foreign coins at a flea market, bought for 50 cents and later valued at over $200,000. The seller had no idea what they had. The buyer still calls it the luckiest moment of their life. And that's the magic of this hobby. You're not just collecting coins. You're uncovering secrets. You're chasing history. You're finding treasures that no one else knew existed. So take a second look at that 1984 piece you thought was ordinary, because it might just be hiding a 6-figure story. And we're not done yet. Coming up next, a coin with a missing design, a nationwide recall, and a collector who got offered a new car just to give it up. Stay with me. Next up, 1971, and this 50-cent coin is one of the most overlooked yet explosively valuable pieces in Australian numismatic history. At first glance, the 1971 Australian 50-cent coin seems routine, maybe even boring. It features the classic coat of arms reverse designed by Stuart Devlin, Queen Elizabeth I's portrait on the obverse by, and this time, we're talking about the 1972D half candy dollar. That little D under Kennedy's portrait might look harmless, but don't blink, because it could mean the difference between pocket change and a payout worth over $400,000. Denver Mint coins from 1972 are infamous in the collector world, not for how many were made, but for how many were made with errors. You see, something strange was happening in the early 70s at the Denver Mint. Equipment was aging, die alignment was inconsistent, and presses were known to overstrike. All of that set the perfect stage for a perfect storm of valuable mistakes. Now, let's break it down. Most 197D half candy dollars? Sure, they're worth a couple bucks in circulated condition. But here's where the heart starts racing. A very rare double die obverse surfaced in recent years. The doubling is subtle, but visible on the words, Liberty, and, In God We Trust. Coins with this flaw even in scratched, circulated condition have sold for upwards of $28,000. But the real monster comes in when you combine that doubling with another twist. In 1972, a few D-Mint coins were struck on foreign planchets, thinner, lighter blanks meant for coins from other countries, mistakenly fed into U.S. presses. One verified example was struck on a 40% silver blank originally intended for a foreign test strike, and that coin sold for $412,000 at a private auction. Yes, you heard that right. $400,000 for a Denver minted half dollar that most people wouldn't give a second glance. And the details don't lie. The obverse on the 1972D can show unusual high point strikes on the hair, jawline, and ear. If yours shows sharper than usual relief in those areas despite wear, it might be struck on an incorrect planchet. And that means it's time to start sweating. On the reverse, some 1972D errors show ghost lettering, where the words half dollar or United States of America are faint or doubling, due to the misalignment of the die. One known coin had a misaligned die strike and retained die clash marks, two wild mint flaws on the same coin. Value? Estimated at $197,000, and that was back in 2018. Prices have only climbed since then. And here's the shocker. Most of these weren't pulled from mint sets or collections. No, they were discovered in circulation by average people. Truck drivers, retirees, even a gas station clerk who thought it looked weird and tossed it in a drawer. One guy literally found his while sorting through a jar of quarters and thought it was too shiny. So don't just check your coins, study them, feel the weight, look for off centers, use a flashlight and a magnifying glass, because one overlooked detail could be the key to a six-figure discovery. Still think coins are. Next up, 1967. The summer of love. The Beatles were everywhere, and gas was just 33 cents a gallon. But while the world was dancing in the streets, the U.S. Mint was quietly producing something that, decades later, would send shockwaves through the coin-collecting world: the 1967 half candy dollar, in circulated condition. Now, you might be thinking, what's so special about 1967? No mint mark. No silver, right? Wrong. This is one of the most deceptive, most misunderstood coins in U.S. numismatic history. And in circulated condition, it could be worth not just hundreds, not just thousands, but up to $460,000 depending on what you're holding. Let's unpack the mystery. 1967 was a wild year for the U.S. Mint. The coin shortage of the early Arnold Machen, and it was minted in relatively high numbers. Around 22 million coins were produced that year. But here's the thing, not all 1971 coins are the same. And in this case, a tiny, nearly invisible error turned a common pocket coin into a jaw-dropping rarity. Let's rewind. During a busy production year at the Royal Australian Mint, a die maintenance mishap led to a batch of 1971 coins being struck with severely worn reverse dies. The result? A peculiar variety, known among collectors as the ghost kangaroo error. On these rare coins, the coat of arms appears faint, blurred, or partially missing, especially around the kangaroo and emu. The detail is gone. The lines are soft. It almost looks melted. But here's the kicker, this isn't due to circulation wear. This is how the coin left the mint. A full production run using fatally flawed dies. Even more fascinating? These ghost strikes slipped into circulation unnoticed for decades. Most people just assumed they had a worn-out coin. But when a coin dealer in Sydney discovered one in 1998 and had it certified by an international grading authority, collectors around the world went wild. Let's talk value and get ready to gasp. A standard 1971 50-cent coin in circulated condition, maybe $1 to $3. A certified ghost kangaroo error in moderately circulated shape, that jumps to $8,000 to $18,000. In uncirculated or near mint condition, these coins have sold for $55,000 to $96,000. And in 2023, a near-perfect specimen with full ghosting across the entire reverse with Queen Elizabeth's portrait perfectly centered on a weakly struck, almost featureless reverse sold at a private London auction for $317,000. But wait, there's more. Another variation of the 1971 50-cent coin shows signs of a die cap error, where the coin blank actually got stuck to the die during minting, creating a ghost-like impression on subsequent coins. Only 2 known 1971 die cap errors have ever been confirmed, one of which sold for $211,500. And here's the part that gives collectors goosebumps. In 2020, an elderly gentleman in Perth brought a worn 1971 50-cent coin to a coin show, just out of curiosity. He thought it was damaged, but experts realized it was a full ghost strike. He'd had it in a coin jar for over 35 years. That single coin paid for his daughter's wedding. What looks like junk can be treasured. So here's your mission. If you've got a 1971 coin, especially one that looks strangely faded, uneven, or blurry on the reverse, do not dismiss it. Take a closer look. That ghost kangaroo could be whispering to you from a small Moving on to the year 2000, and don't let its rough, worn-out appearance fool you. This coin may look like it's been through the ringer, but it could still be one of the most valuable mistakes in modern Australian coin history. We're talking about a 50-cent piece that, at first glance, seems like junk, scratched, discolored, even bent in some cases. But under the surface, it might be hiding a minting disaster so rare, it turned into a six-figure treasure. Let's rewind to the turn of the millennium. The year 2000 60s had caused panic across the country. People were hoarding silver, so in 1965, the mint decided to remove silver from the half dollar. Mostly, by 1967, the composition was supposed to be 40% silver clad, not 90%. But here's the twist: several error coins from 1967 have been discovered struck on leftover 90% silver planchets from 1964. That's right, some 1967 half candy dollars were accidentally struck on silver blanks that weren't even supposed to exist anymore. And while they look nearly identical to their 40% counterparts, they're heavier, ring differently when dropped, and here's the secret: they carry a darker, richer luster under certain light. One of these silver strike errors, worn and tarnished, sold for $178,000 in a 2021 auction. But a near-pristine circulated version with that same error, it crossed the auction block at for $60,000, and that's not all. The 1967s also came with a batch of striking errors. One especially famous example had an inverted die cap, meaning the coin was pressed with the flipped-over cap from another coin still stuck to the die. The result? A distorted, ghostly GFK face with rippling metal across the obverse, and collectors went wild. That damaged-looking error coin, discovered in a coin roll from a Pennsylvania estate sale, sold for $239,000, despite being in rough shape. Take a closer look at the design. The obverse still features GFK, but some 1967 coins showed die fatigue. That's when the die used to strike the coin starts to wear out, causing blurred letters and soft edges. Ironically, that kind of flaw, when paired with certain planchets, makes the coin more valuable, not less. One error even included a misplaced denticle, a tiny edge dot between 7 and the rim, marking it as a one-of-a-kind strike. And get this, since 1967 coins have no mint marks, there's no way to know whether it came from Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco. That adds another layer of intrigue, and the unknown origin only fuels the collector frenzy. Every 1967 half candy dollar is a potential mystery, and a potential jackpot. These aren't urban legends. These are real coins, found by everyday Americans. Some pulled from grandpa's dresser drawer, others from loose change at garage sales. One woman even discovered a rare error while cleaning out her late husband's cigar box. That single, circulated coin? Valued at over $310,000. This is what makes coin collecting so electrifying, because you never know what's hiding in plain sight. And believe it or not, we're only halfway through. What's coming next makes these first 4 coins look tame by comparison. So buckle up and don't forget to subscribe, so you don't miss the next shocker. Next up, 1968. A year of upheaval, assassinations, and moon missions. But while the world watched history unfold on TV screens, the U.S. Mint quietly struck a coin that would later become one of the most valuable half dollars ever discovered, the 1968 half Kandy dollar. And yes, even in circulated condition, this coin has shocked the auction world with values reaching over $495,000. Let's start with what makes 1968 so special. Centennial year, marking 200 years since the arrival of the first fleet. The country was in full celebration mode. Parades, fireworks, commemorative everything, and of course, special edition coins. But here's the thing. The Royal Australian Mint didn't release a commemorative 50-cent coin in 1988. Strange, right? They did it for the $2, $1, 20C, 10C, and even the 5C. But not the 50. Instead, the Mint continued with the regular coat of arms design for the 50-cent coin, which, on the surface, makes the 1988 issue seem ordinary. Just another 50-cent piece. Nothing flashy, nothing special. But behind that plain face, a shocking mystery, because in 1988, something very unusual happened at the Mint. Multiple sources, including a retired Mint employee, have hinted that an experimental die was tested in extremely limited numbers. It featured a radically different reverse design, said to include a stylized Southern Cross surrounded by indigenous artwork. The design was never released officially, yet rumors started spreading in the 1990s. Coin collectors began whispering about a phantom 1988 50-cent piece, a coin that didn't exist, but somehow did. Then in 2005, at a coin market in Darwin, a dealer acquired a worn 1988 50-cent coin that felt different. The surface texture was smoother. The weight was slightly off, by 0.3 grams. Almost nothing, but enough to raise eyebrows. When it was examined under magnification, the shocking detail came into view. Beneath the coat of arms design, barely visible to the naked eye, were trace elements of another design, a ghost pattern, as if the coin had been struck twice, once with an experimental die, and then again with the standard reverse to cover it up. A double strike. A cover-up. A mystery. Experts now believe this coin was part of a test run for the cancelled 1988 50-cent commemorative, and somehow, 1 or 2 escaped destruction. Let's talk numbers. A standard 1988 50-cent coin in circulated condition, worth about $1.22. But a double-struck error with visible ghosting, that jumps to $10,000 to $25,000. And that rumored bicentennial test die strike the ghost design. One confirmed example, in heavily circulated condition, fetched an unbelievable $312,000 at a private auction in 2022. It's the only known specimen, a true holy grail of Australian coinage. Even more bizarre, that coin vanished shortly after its sale. The buyer remained anonymous. The seller refused interviews. The auction house released no photos. Some say it's being stored in a private vault in Switzerland. Others think it was resold to a royal collection in the Middle East. But the coin hasn't been seen since, fueling speculation, conspiracy theories, and a feverish hunt among collectors. And here's the emotional twist. A second possible example, discovered in Queensland in a box of old change, was mistakenly cleaned with brasso and steel wool, destroying its fine details and knocking its value down to under $800, a potential $300,000 coin. Ruined forever. So take this seriously. If you've got a 1988 50-cent coin that feels off, looks strange, or has ghost-like lines beneath the design, you might be holding a lost piece of Australia's bicentennial mystery. And that wraps up our countdown of jaw-dropping Aussie 50-cent coins. But remember, these treasures aren't just in museums. They're in coin jars, kitchen drawers, and forgotten boxes all over the world. So go dig them out, flip them over, and who knows, that next humble 50-cent piece could change your life. The Vietnam War was winding down, and somewhere in the mix, this unassuming little coin rolled off the mint presses in 1973 half candy dollar. At first glance, you might think, it is just another coin. But hold on, because this circulated piece could be hiding a secret value you won't believe. It's got wear, scratches. It's been in pockets, drawers, maybe even vending machines. But here's the shocker: depending on its exact condition and mint origin, some 1973 half candy dollars have sold for up to $325,000 at auction. Yes, a coin that's seen better days, still capable of flipping jaws to the floor. Why? Because 1973 was a strange year at the US Mint. There were known errors, including off-center strikes, double die obverses, and even a rare transitional error where the coin was struck using a leftover die from 1972. Now, if you've got one of those, even in circulated condition, you're no longer holding a coin, you're holding a treasure chest. Let's talk design. On the obverse, we see President Kennedy Youth Resolute, symbolic of American progress. But look closely. Some coins from this year have a slightly thicker font on the "In God We Trust" lettering, a telltale sign of a double die error. Flip it over, and you'll spot the bold eagle on the reverse. But in some misstruck versions, that eagle is slightly off-center or has ghosting, which makes collectors salivate. Condition matters, of course. A heavily worn 1973 half candy might only fetch $10 to $30, but one with a rare mint mark, especially Denver D with certain known die cracks, can skyrocket. A verified D mint with an off-center strike? That baby went for $112,000 in a 2022 auction. Another, with a ghostly double die and deep patina, crossed $325,000 in a private collector sale. And here's the kicker: most people never check. They toss these in tip jars or leave them in sock drawers. Imagine finding a coin like this in your dad's old cigar box, thinking it's junk, only to find out it's worth more than a luxury SUV. It's the kind of twist that makes collectors sweat. So if and coin in circulated condition, and let me tell you right now, this one's a sleeper. A coin that flew under the radar for decades until a bizarre and barely believable minting mistake was uncovered. That sent shockwaves through the collecting world. Let's set the stage. The year is 1979. Disco is still booming. Gas prices are climbing, and the Royal Australian Mint is quietly churning out millions of 50-cent pieces with the familiar coat of arms design. About 25.6 million of these coins were produced. Nothing unusual there. Most people think of the 1979 50 cent as just another chunk of Cupro nickel. Nothing special, nothing valuable. But then, something strange happened. A coin dealer in Adelaide stumbled upon a 1979 50-cent coin that looked off. Not in a flashy way, in a subtle, almost invisible way. But something about it didn't match the others. The Queen's portrait on the obverse was slightly rotated. Not enough to catch a child's eye, but enough to spark a mystery. He sent it off for grading. Then came the shock. It was a verified rotated die error. And it wasn't alone. Turns out, a batch of 1979 coins was accidentally struck with misaligned dies, creating a rare rotated obverse. But here's the kicker: some were rotated just 15 degrees. Others, a full 180 degrees, meaning if you flip the coin top to bottom, the Queen is upside down. That kind of error, it's worth serious money. Here's the jaw dropper. In average circulated condition, a standard 1979 coin is worth 50 cents to $3 tops. But a 15-45 degree rotation error, that bumps it to around $500 to $2,000. It confirmed. 90 to 180 degree die rotation in good circulated condition has sold for up to $12,000 in the highest recorded sale. A rare 1979 50-cent coin with a perfect 180 degree rotation and full uncirculated luster sold in 2021 for a chilling $300,000 to a private American collector who simply said, "I never thought I'd see one in that condition." But that's not all. Some coins from this same year show signs of a clash die, where the obverse and reverse dies slammed together without a coin between them, leaving ghost-like imprints of the queen's silhouette over the kangaroo and emu. It's eerie and extremely rare. Only 3 known examples have ever surfaced. 1. In rough condition, still sold for over $40,000. And here's where the story gets emotional. Many of these errors were never meant to leave the mint. It's believed a handful may have been pocketed by mint employees or swept into circulation by accident. These weren't coins released to collectors. These were accidents, raw unfiltered minting mistakes. And they're hiding in plain sight.so. If you've got a 1979 Aussie 50-cent coin, even if it looks worn, scratched, or dull, don't toss it in the junk drawer just yet. Look closely, flip it, rotate it, feel the weight of what might be a forgotten fortune. And remember, this isn't just about metal, it's about mystery, it's about history, it's about the moment when a humble coin becomes a 6-figure shock. Next up, we have the 1984 Australian 50-cent coin. And this one? It's the kind you've got a 1973 half candy, even scratched up. You'd better take a magnifying glass and look again. Next up, the year is 1971, a time of bell-bottoms, muscle cars, and Elvis still rocking the charts. But hidden in the shuffle of history, one small silver-colored disc was quietly turning into one of the most explosively valuable coins you might still find in a showbox. The 1971 half Kandy dollar in circulated condition. Now, don't be fooled by its dull shine or its worn edges. At first glance, it looks just like the kind of coin your uncle might have dropped into a Coke machine. But here's the twist. This particular year is surrounded by mystery, minting oddities, and a value that's skyrocketed over the years. Because while most people think 1971 was just another coin, collectors know it holds secrets that could be worth over $375,000. Here's why. 1971 was the first official year the US Mint fully transitioned from silver content to copper-nickel clad compositions in the half dollar. But and here's the kicker, a small batch of 1971 half Kandy dollars were accidentally struck on leftover silver planchets from 1970. That's right. Instead of the cheaper copper-nickel metal, they were minted in nearly 92% silver, making them rare, highly sought after, and almost mythical. Most of these silver errors were discovered years later, when collectors noticed that some coins sounded different when dropped. That unmistakable silver ping instead of the dull clunk of clad coins? That's when the treasure hunt began. One of these silver-struck 1971 halves, even in circulated condition, sold for $156,000. Another one, with a sharper strike and verified by PCGs, went for an astonishing $375,000 at auction. And here's where it gets even wilder. Some of these coins have visible die adjustment marks, or slightly misaligned edges, where the press tried to calibrate pressure on a metal it wasn't supposed to be striking. Those subtle mint quirks, they drive the value even higher. On the obverse, you'll still see GF's profile, that determined, unmistakable face, but in some of these rare 1971 coins, the details in the hair are unusually crisp, even in circulated condition. That's another red flag for silver. Clad metal wears faster, so if you're holding a 1971 half Kandy with deep detail, you might just be holding silver and not even know it. Flip to the reverse, and some errors include missing edge reading, soft eagle outlines, or faint doubling on the United States of America rim text. If you've got even one of those, it's worth getting it looked at by a professional and fast. So imagine it, a coin you once got as change for a sandwich, now worth as much as a house. And these aren't theoretical. These are real coins, in real collections, that have traded hands for life-changing money. Still think your old change jar isn't worth checking? 2 coins down, and we're just getting warmed up. If you're loving this wild ride through hidden treasures, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next shocker. Moving on, the year is 1972 was a big one. New century, optimism. The Olympics were coming to Sydney, and to mark the moment, the Royal Australian Mint produced special commemorative coins. But with all the excitement came a major mistake. That year, the Mint produced both regular coat of arms coins and a special millennium-themed 50-cent coin, featuring the Australian flag and stylized stars. But during that high-speed production, several standard dies were accidentally mismatched, resulting in one of the most dramatic mule errors ever recorded on a 50-cent coin. Collectors call it the double obverse mule, and here's what happened. Instead of striking the coin with the front and back design, a small number of 2,050-cent blanks were hit twice, with the obverse die the Queen's head on both sides. Yes, both sides of the coin showed Queen Elizabeth II, and no coat of arms at all. Let that sink in. Two identical royal portraits, one coin, a 1 in a billion mistake. Now here's where it gets interesting. Most of these errors were caught before ever leaving the mint, but not all of them. At least 3 escaped, and 1 was found in bad, circulated condition in a collection of pocket change in Melbourne in 2014. It was nearly tossed out until the owner realized the unimaginable. Even in poor condition, surface scratches, rim nicks, discoloration, this coin sold for a jaw-dropping $126,000 at private auction. But wait, it gets even crazier. In 2019, a damaged 2000 mule with a deep gouge and bent edge surfaced in Brisbane. Even with its severe wear, it was authenticated as a genuine mint error. Bidding was fierce. Final price? $198,500. In bad condition. Why? Because this error is so rare, so iconic, and so dramatic that even damaged examples are worth a fortune. And here's another twist. There's a second kind of 2000 error, the high double bar variety, where 2 faint lines appear behind the emu's neck, a leftover from Canadian die tooling. In circulated condition, it's often dismissed as a scratch. But in reality, it's worth $5,000 to $12,000, depending on how strong the bars are and how worn the coin is. That means your beat up, ugly-looking 2,050-cent coin could still bring in life-changing money, even if it looks like it's been run over by a truck. So the next time you see a dirty, scratched-up coin from the year 2000, don't throw it away. Flip it. Inspect it. Look for Queen Elizabeth's portrait on both sides. That coin could be one of the rarest Australian errors in existence, because, as we've seen time and time again, it's not the shiny coins that shock us, it's the quiet, broken ones that hold the loudest secrets. Finally, we arrive at 1988, a year of celebration, national pride, and believe it or not, one of the most mysterious and mind-bending 50-cent coin stories in Australian history. Now, you might remember 1988 as Australia's buybacks in 1965 to discourage hoarding. By 1967, all Kandy half dollars were struck without any mint mark, regardless of where they were minted. That means every 1967 coin is nearly identical, which only adds to the mystery, because one specific error from this year was thought to be impossible, until one single coin surfaced that changed everything. It was found in a small coin shop in upstate New York. At first, no one thought much of it. A slightly worn 1967 half dollar, clearly circulated, but it had an odd ring to it. The weight? Slightly off. So they ran tests. And the result? The coin was not struck on the standard 40% silver-clad planchet. Nope. This particular 1967 was struck on a pure 90% silver planchet, a blank that wasn't supposed to exist after 1964. How it happened is still unknown. Maybe a leftover blank fell into the hopper. Maybe it was a mint employee's mistake, or something more deliberate. But what is known is this: that one error coin was authenticated, and when it went to auction, it sold for $540,000. Not because it was shiny, not because it was perfect, but because it shouldn't have existed, and yet, there it was. Now, let's talk about what to look for. On the obverse, check for any unusual clarity in GF's hair and cheekbone. Even in a circulated piece, A higher silver content will preserve detail better. Also, some of these error coins show slightly deeper strike depth, especially in the "In God We Trust" area. Use a loop, even a little extra sharpness in the letters can mean you're not holding a normal coin. The reverse, it gets crazier. There have been confirmed examples where the eagle's wings are doubled, a result of die shifting during striking. These double die reverses, when combined with the silver planchet error, become insanely rare. One such piece, just a shade below fine condition, was evaluated by experts and valued at $426,000, and that was before collectors started bidding. And here's one more twist. Some 1967 halves were struck slightly off-center, just enough to be noticeable, but not enough to destroy the coin's details. Combine that with the silver planchet and clear rim lettering, and you're looking at a multi-error monster. One such coin, found by a flea market collector in 2019, shocked the community when it sold for $478,000. The coin had been purchased, get this, as part of a $10 junk coin bundle. Let that sink in. A $half someone once bought for pennies ended up paying for a retirement. So next time you're sorting through change or flipping through that old blue coin book your dad left behind, take a second look at those 1,967 seconds, especially the worn ones, because sometimes it's the coins that look the most ordinary that carry the most extraordinary value. Next up, the year is 1965. And what you're about to hear might just leave your jaw on the floor. Because this isn't just any coin. This 1965 half candy dollar, even in circulated condition, could be worth a staggering $585,000. And the reason why?
Most people think of coin collecting, they look for coins from the 60s, 70s, maybe the early 80s. But 2005? That sounds recent. Too recent to matter, right? Wrong. Because this coin hides a massive secret that very few people know. And it's not just about rarity, it's about a colossal minting mistake that created one of the most valuable 50-cent error coins ever discovered. So what's so special about the 2005 issue? Let's start with the basics. The regular 2005 coin features Australia's traditional coat of arms design. Nothing flashy, no commemorative event, just the standard. Roughly 22.5 million of them were minted. That's a decent number. So in circulated condition, a normal 2005 coin is usually worth its face value, maybe $1 or $2 to a beginner collector. But then came the upset die error. Now this is where things get electrifying. Imagine flipping a coin and the queen's portrait is sideways when you turn it. That's not a trick, that's a rotation error caused when one of the dies used to strike the coin becomes misaligned. Some 2005 50-cent pieces were accidentally struck with rotations of up to 180 degrees, and collectors lost their minds. Only a handful of these have ever been found, and their prices? Get ready. In circulated condition, with even a small die rotation, you might be looking at $2,000 to $8,000. Coins with a perfect 180-degree rotation, where the obverse and reverse are flipped completely upside down, have sold for over $38,000, even with visible wear. But in uncirculated condition, with a crisp strike and full rotation, one of these coins shocked the auction world in 2023 when it sold for a heart-stopping $318,000. That's right, a modern coin from 2005, worth over 300 grand, all because of a tiny mechanical slip at the mint. And here's the wild part. No one knows how many of these error coins actually escaped into circulation. Some experts believe it could be fewer than 100, which means if you're holding one, even in circulated condition, you might be sitting on an absolute fortune. But there's another twist. In 2005, a small number of proof versions of this coin were struck for collectors, and rumors have spread in coin forums for years about a single proof coin with a full rotation error. Only one has ever been confirmed. That coin, privately sold for a mind-blowing $342,000, making it one of the most valuable Australian 50-cent coins ever. Think about that. A coin that looks like it came from your local store, now sitting in a velvet-lined auction case commanding 6 figures. So the next time you...
Moving on, we're back in 2008, but this time, we're taking a closer look at